Today we are going to study about a few important terms which are again part of our environmental syllabus. So here I will start. The first, like we'll be studying today different types of species and also a few questions. I mean, like we'll take what was being asked in UPSC in the previous papers. So different types of species lo first species anedi the very important species, that is the keystone species. See, species behavior anedi, it depends upon geographical and climatic conditions. So based on this, the species has been classified into different types, like keystone species, umbrella species, endemic species. Okay, so flagship species. So these are different types of species based on the environmental aspects, that is their it might be their behavioral aspects, or it might be based on geographical or climate actions. Now we'll study about what is this keystone species. See, keystone species are a very important species. Ante addition of this species, keystone species ante keystone, those are very important key species. Their role is very high in the environment anamata. Now addition of these species in the ecosystem, or removal of these species, or that means increasing in the number of these species or decrease in the number of this species, will make lot of impacts in the environment or the ecosystem. For example, a food chain or a pyramid తీసుకుంటే, in the food chain of the pyramid, the topmost species are basically carnivores like lion, tigers, cheetah, panther. So these are the topmost carnivore species. As you come down to the lower trophic levels, ante from one trophic to another trophic of pyramid draw cheste, the topmost anedi carnivores untayi amma. Then we come down to the next level, we have deers, we have other species which are dependent on primary. So we'll come down to next level, that is the lowermost level koste, we have green plant species. Now one trophic level is linked to another trophic level. In case any of this trophic levels lo, if the first trophic level, that is carnivores edi anukunnamo, number of species of carnivores ఎక్కువ అయ్యాయి అనుకోండి in that ecosystem, more number of tigers ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. More number of tigers ఉండడం వల్ల what will happen? More tigers will start eating these deers. So when they start eating these deers, number of deers will reduce. If number of deers will reduce, there is an imbalance in the food chain. That means the lowermost trophic level low, we have green plants or grass, etc. This will increase very drastically. Now to maintain this ecological balance, the topmost, that is the carnivores, for example ee pyramid తీసుకుంటే, the topmost, that are carnivores, these species are very important species to maintain the ecological balance that is in the ecosystem. So that's the reason. Now carnivores ఎక్కువ అవడం వల్ల number of deers తగ్గిపోయాయి కాబట్టి the lowermost trophic level lo grass or green plants has increased. This has made the imbalance in the food chain. Same case, carnivores తగ్గడం వల్ల, or lions or cheetahs, if they reduce, increase అయితే number of deers తగ్గిపోతాయి, because this cheetah will definitely eat away all these deers. Carnivores, lion, cheetah తగ్గిపోతే deers ఇవన్నీ ఎక్కువ అవుతాయి. సో number ఎక్కువ అవడం వల్ల they will eat away all this lowermost trophic level grass and all. So if they eat away, there will be a lot of competition, and these deers one day they cannot survive because of low primary level food availability. In this case, the second most trophic level, the deers and all, has drastically increased because of decrease in the number of very important species, that is keystone, that is carnivores. So ఈ trophic level లో carnivores are very important కాబట్టి ఈ carnivores, the topmost trophic level ని keystone species అంటారు. Keystone species are those species if their addition or removal from the pyramid will definitely make some sort of imbalance in the pyramid or the trophic levels. That's the reason keystone species anedi, it should be very balanced. It should not be very high and it should not be very less, because if they are in a proper number, definitely the lower trophic levels or the food chain will be sustainable and matter. So that's the reason keystone species are the very important species. Now I have written here this species that is not necessarily a community, but it exerts strong control on the community, definitely, because of it makes a lot of impact on the lower trophic levels. Population of deer or rabbits will definitely go increase without the presence of a predators, or what will happen, they might increase or they might fall. So keystone species are very important species which they maintain the ecological balance in the ecosystem. So this is an example of keystone species. And what are keystone species? What is their importance in the ecosystem? The second type of species which we'll take here is foundation species. The foundation species ante, these are the species which play a major role in creating or maintaining an ecosystem. I repeat, these are the species which are playing a very major role, an important role play chestayi anamata foundation species. Because foundation ante starting step. This step is there, you can proceed to the next levels. In the same case, coral formation, these will lead to the formation of reefs. If the reefs continuously forms, this will set as a bench so that other species can survive on this corals, like human beings or any other settlements will start establishing their life on this foundation species. So foundation species ante, these are the very basic species which are the first step to create a foundation step so that a new life can start existing from that step. So these are known as foundation species. Example, corals. Corals produce a reef structure, a continuous structure on which other species will survive. So foundation species is already been asked in one of your examination. So just knew this example of foundation species are corals. I'll take one more species, that is umbrella species. Umbrella species ante, these are almost similar to our keystone species. Keystone species ante most important species which are very useful in maintaining the ecological balance. In the same way, umbrella species means these are the species which are directly or indirectly linked to other species. So ఇది ఎలా directly indirectly linked అయ్యాయంటే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ అంబ్రెల్లా స్పీసీస్ అని డిక్లేర్ చేశాక, ఒక పర్టికులర్ స్పీసీస్ ని అంబ్రెల్లా స్పీసీస్ డిక్లేర్ చేశాక, ఆ స్పీసీస్ which is directly or indirectly linked to any other species, like tigers are linked to deers or any other species, deers are linked to any other primary species. Tiger ni protection ichchaka, you are directly or indirectly protecting all the species in that ecosystem. Umbrella species basically migrate anamata. They migrate from one place to another. For example, oka particular season lo they may not be stable at one place. They move or migrate from one location to another location. It could be geographical aspect undachu, or it could be any other climatic conditions undachu. So in climatic conditions, what happens, they migrate from one place to another place. Ante there is one migratory path. Villa origin oka area ni consider cheskunte, ఒక migratory path ని కన్సిడర్ చేసుకుంటే, these species are linked to all this area and also they are linked to species in those areas, and hence if I declare these tigers like Amur tigers or Bengal tigers as umbrella species, ఈ species తో లింక్ ఉన్న ప్రతి ఒక్క species ని we are giving highest protection. So that is the reason what we call it as to protect one ecosystem, to protect the entire ecosystem or the origin or the migratory part of that species. I am declaring one species as umbrella species, and the species which are directly or indirectly linked to this species will all be getting protection. So that is the importance of what are umbrella species. Keystone species ante increase in number or decrease in number will definitely have an impact on the ecosystem. Umbrella species ante, if I declare one species as a project under umbrella, then the entire ecosystem is getting protected. So this is the difference between what are keystone species and what are umbrella species. Now we'll take another very important term. Those are flagship species. Flagship species ante, for example, ఒక habitat or ఒక ecosystem ni consider చేశాక a particular ecosystem లో ఒక unique species, for example Royal Bengal tiger అనుకోండి. Where do we get to see Royal Bengal tiger? Royal Bengal tiger we can see in West Bengal, okay, Sundarbans, ilanti areas lo we get to see this Royal Bengal tiger. African elephant, which are very unique to this African continent, that is the central, and the giant panda of China or the gorilla of Africa. Now, for example, is species due to certain issues, environmental issues కావచ్చు, geographical issues కావచ్చు, climatic or global warming issues కావచ్చు, వీటి వల్ల there is a lot of impact on this species. అంటే ఈ climatic conditions వల్ల the impact or negative impact అనేది ఈ స్పీసీస్ మీద డైరెక్ట్లీ ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే ఈ స్పీసీస్ ని ఫ్లాగ్షిప్ స్పీసీస్ అని డిక్లేర్ చేస్తాం. సో ఫ్లాగ్షిప్ స్పీసీస్ అని డిక్లేర్ చేశాక these species will be given a highest protection. And who will be giving protection? Protection anedi these species will be getting from community level, the government level, private organization or international organization. So when you declare a species as a flagship species, you are raising a flag anmata. Why are you raising a flag? You are raising a flag to inform or to aware people that this species has been declared as a most observed species, and a community level concern or the private level, international institution level or the government level concern is being attracted or needs to be given to this species so that this species can be protected. So basically flagship species declare chesedi endukante habitat loss undachu, a habitat or environmental impact valla these species are directly or indirectly getting affected. So that's the reason manam a particular species ni flagship species lo declare chesaka these species will be getting a lot of attention and also a protection. So definitely ee species to link aina prati okka species ni kuda in that habitat will be also be getting protection from this community level and also from the other institutions. Now you all know the stakeholders who have been involved here, and the flagship why I have to raise anedi you knew it. Gir lions or Asiatic lions, which are majorly specific to the location of Gujarat, that is Gir range. So ikkada Gir lions recently they were facing some canine vaccine issue. So this virus which was impacting this Gir lions from majorly from this livestock. So what is the government can do? Government can raise an alarm stating that I am declaring Gir lions as a under a flagship project. If I declare them under the flagship project, what will happen? This particular species a flagship project lo cover ayyayo, veetini you will give a lot of attention and also a highest protection. This also happened with giant panda of China and etc. So you should know a very important species like flagship species, umbrella species, keystone species. I hope it is clear now. Next very important term is endemic species. Now endemic species ante location. అంటే ఒక స్పెసిఫిక్ లొకేషన్ కి రిలేట్ అయిన స్పీసీస్ ని ఎండమిక్ స్పీసీస్ అంటాం. నా specific location ఎందుకంటే they would have been related based on the geographical conditions or environmental conditions, or more importantly we can have related to the most important factor, that is climatic conditions. So climatic condition or geographic conditions which are more conducive to those location, hence we can say that these species are related to those particular location only. For example, konni species anedi these are related, like I already said, Royal Bengal tiger. Royal Bengal tiger is somewhat, its origin is related to Sundarbans, whether it is of Bangladesh ankochu or it might be of West Bengal. Now next important example is Gir lions. Gir lions specifically, now these are specific location we have is Gujarat, that is the Gir range. Now I'll take one more example of lion tail macaw. Lion tail macaw is that species which has been clearly shown in the pictograph here. Lion tail macaw is endemic to Western Ghats. Ante Western Ghats climatic conditions undachu, geographical locations undachu, which are very suitable to this lion tail macaw kabatti in India we get to see this lion tail macaw only in Western Ghats. So why and what anedi you know, because particular geographical or climatic conditions kaavachu. Now we'll move to the another important topic, that is invasive alien species. So what are these invasive alien species? Alien, endemic means specific, that particular location. Alien means this is not related to particular location. Alien means they migrate from one ecosystem, that is one location to another location. Alien means they move from one location to another location and they are not endemic to one particular location. So why they move ante accidentally kaavachu, intentional kuda kaavachu. Accidentally ante ships which travel from one continent to other continent, okay, they might carry beneath them, they might carry certain water to maintain the stability. This water might carry certain plant and animal species, and when it reaches the coast of another continent or another country, it will release that water so that it can come to the shore, and this species which was carried from other continents or other country will be released in the other locations. Ante this is not intentionally done. This is something like a ship ni stability maintain cheyadaniki akkadunna water, a shores lo unna water from where you are starting, this water has been carried. This water carries along with it those plants or animal species which are from that location, and when the ship reaches to the other location, it will deliver those species along with that water. Now this is something like unintentional, ante accidental case lo teesukochu. Accidentally is this ship we can take an example, or intentionally ante by knowingly what we try to do is we import anamata. We import certain species. These species might not adjust. I mean, what you try to do is we import from other locations and we try to make forcibly adjustment of this species in the specific location. Now ఈ species ఒక particular place నుంచి ఇంకో place కి reach అయ్యాక ఇవి ఏం చేస్తాయి అంటే it will try to dominate. అంటే invasive alien species are those species which are harmful to the environment. How are they harmful to the environment is they will try to dominate. How they will try to dominate? They will try to take away the entire location or occupy the location of other species which are endemic. అంటే ఆ ప్రాంతంలో ఆల్రెడీ ఉన్న స్పీసీస్ ని ఈ కొత్తగా వచ్చిన స్పీసీస్ వేరే లొకేషన్ నుంచి they will try to dominate. So these species you call it as invasive alien species. Now I have written a simple definition there. Invasive species is a species that is not native to the specific location. Native to the specific location means endemic species. A person who is continuously marking at lion-tail macaw, I don't know what relation you have with lion-tail macaw there, so that it is making you to mark there. So please try to listen to the class, which will give you some benefit rather than concentrating on lion-tail macaw. Next one. I understand your love and relation with respect to lion-tail macaw, but try to understand the other aspects here also. Next point, invasive alien species. An invasive species is a species that is not native to the specific location. Native unnappudu, that will be endemic. Native unnappudu, that will be endemic. If they are not native, they are called as alien. Simple. Native unnappudu, they are called endemic. If they are not native, then you definitely call them as alien. So recently మనం పేపర్ లో చదివింది ఏంటంటే కేరళ కోస్ట్ is facing an issue from invasive alien species. అంటే from Africa, from Europe countries నుంచి ships they moved carrying this cargo or goods అనేది. Once they reach this Kerala coast, they start delivering. Okay, this they release certain water, and along with this water species అనేవి యూరోప్ ఆఫ్రికా నుంచి మీరు ఏది క్యారీ చేశారో that will also get released. Now ఇక్కడ మీరు రిలీజ్ చేశాక these species try to occupy those native species and dominate చేయడం స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాయి దేనిపైన on endemic species. Now ఇలాంటివి India started facing an issue in the coast of across the coast of Cochin, I mean like Kerala, and also the coast of West Bengal. So here I have given a very important examples. These examples on this list I have directly picked from the Hindu. That is African apple snail. African apple snail anedi, it moves from unintentionally, it has been carried from African location and it has moved nearby this Andaman Nicobar. And Andaman Nicobar endemic species ఏ ఉన్నాయో ఆ species పై African apple snail అనేది this is dominating. Now if this dominates, what happens? Endemic species కి పెద్ద threat అన్నమాట. If there is a threat to endemic species after a period of time they may go extinct. Extinct ante they may not survive, so that they are not existing. That's the meaning of extinct. So African apple snail by it has impacted Andaman and Nicobar. Later across this coast of India, across this coastal line of India, there is a threat from this African apple snail. Look the pictograph, I mean like the big list of troublemakers, I have directly picked it from one of the newspapers because India is facing some prominent species issues across this coast and specific locations. So you need to by heart all this species which have declared as an alien species. Make exam lo kuda he might give few species, he might give you confusion, he might add you few endemic species also, so be careful here. Next one is Amazon sailfin catfish. So this is a threat to West Bengal. And cotton mealy bug, which is a native of North America. Now Deccan areas where cotton cultivators are facing this issue from cotton mealy bug. So this is what is known as invasive alien species. I repeat, endemic species ante specific location, aa location ke chendinavi annamata. Next one, invasive alien species ante alien means which are not native but they have moved from one location to another location. Now we'll take one more important term, that is edge species. So before going through this edge species, we have to study what is ecotone. So ecotone ante it is a zone of junction. A zone of junction ante it is an area between two bodies, that is two ecosystem. Ecosystem ante it is an interaction anamata. It is an interaction between two living and non-living bodies. Two living and non-living bodies interaction ఏది ఉంటుందో that you call it as ecosystem. So two different ecosystems తీసుకుంటే ఒక land ecosystem తీసుకోవచ్చు, ఒక that is terrestrial ecosystem, next one is aquatic ecosystem. So in terrestrial ecosystem lo there are certain species which are surviving, okay, and aquatic ecosystem lo there are certain species which are surviving. like aquatic species, like land or terrestrial species. Now there is a place, or there could be one area where both the species are related. I mean, like both the species can survive. So that area is known as a transition zone. Under a transition zone, under it is a mixture. It is a mixture or a conjunction of both, that is a terrestrial and the aquatic. So this area can be an example of ecotone. For example, we'll take a case of frog. Frog can survive in water, that is aquatic ecosystem. Frog can also survive in land, and frog can survive in both the areas. I mean, so then frog can be considered as an example of an edge species. Edge species ante an area where a species of land ecosystem, a species which can also survive in an aquatic ecosystem, can exist or can survive in the area which is having a conjunction between both the ecosystems. Ante one ecosystem, another ecosystem, there is a species which can survive in both the ecosystem, then you call it as edge species. Now, if you take a small question, ante where the population of the species are more in number, if you consider this aspect, edge area, that is conjunction unna area lo, the number of species are very very high. Ante land lo unnai kuda ikkada survive avutayi, plus water lo unna species kuda ikkada survive avvachu. Kabatti ఈ పర్టికులర్ ఏరియాలో నంబర్ ఆఫ్ స్పీసీస్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటాయి కాబట్టి వాట్ వీ క్యాన్ సే దీస్ స్పీసీస్ ఆర్ edge species, and the effect which we are getting because of this, that is the more density in the population, this is known as edge effect. I repeat, edge effect was asked in your examination. Edge effect means this, sometimes the number of species and the population density in that particular area is much higher when compared to other areas. Okay, so this is known as edge species, and the junction between these two ecosystem is known as ecotone. Now, chinna example teeskochu. An example is river water. River water lo basically fresh water species can survive. When you take sea water, in sea water salt water species can survive, but the place where a river water anedi will meet this sea water. So river water and sea water will form a junction. And the river water completely is one ecosystem. Sea water is completely one ecosystem. And this junction is formed by merging of river water and sea water. You call it this junction as a zone. Ante oka transition zone antarmata. So this we call it as a tone. Zone is nothing but a tone. This tone is ecotone. So e species ante e area lo edge species ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. అంటే పాపులేషన్ ఆఫ్ ద డెన్సిటీ ఆఫ్ ద స్పీసీస్ వెన్ కంపేర్డ్ టు స్పెసిఫిక్ రివర్ వాటర్, వెన్ కంపేర్డ్ టు స్పెసిఫిక్ సీ వాటర్, ఈ జంక్షన్ ఏది ఉందో దీంట్లో ద నంబర్ ఆఫ్ స్పీసీస్ ఆర్ వెరీ మోర్. ఎగ్జాంపుల్ వీ కెన్ టేక్ estuaries, example we can take grassland, which is a conjunction of forest and desert. So very important, this is which you should know as part of your basics terms of environmental, that is different types of species what we have studied, and also ecotone or edge effect or edge species. Now we'll take another important term, that is ecological niche. Now ecological niche means, niche is nothing but a functional role anamata. Now a particular ecosystem తీసుకుంటే, ecosystem means an interaction. Who is interacting here? A living and the non-living beings are interacting between them, then you call it as ecosystem. The ecosystem lo we have different species anamata. So this each and every species have a habitat, and in this habitat this species has a different functional role. For example, I belong to the particular area, that is an habitat. In an habitat there are lot of species which are surviving. In this habitat I do belong to this habitat and I have a role, that is teaching is my role. So I belong to that particular area, and in that area I teach. So we can call it that as I have an functional role and I belong to that habitat. So my functional role is teaching. So in this case, ecological niche means it is defining that area and it also defines a particular role in that area. So ecological niche means a physical space occupied by a particular organism which defines the area and also the functional role. So we can take different examples like zebra, giraffe, elephants will all live on the same grassland. Kani prati okka species has a different functional role anamata, but they all belong to one habitat. So ఈ functional role define చేసేదే ecological niche. So 2013 preliminary question. I have posted here one question, that is 2013 UPSC preliminary question, that is which one of the following terms describes not only the physical space occupied by an organism but also its functional role in the community of organism. So the answer for that is ecological niche. So somebody has already marked, very good. So the role, just remember two important terms here. One term is the area, that is area ante a particular habitat. Next, a habitat lo what is the role of that species? Then the answer will be ecological niche. Now we'll go for a very final, that is the vermin species. So vermin species, if you have to understand, you should go through what is WPA Act. I mean like Wildlife Protection Act 1972. See, Indian Parliament enacted Wildlife Protection Act in 1972. This is the basic fact which you should know, 1972, which provides for the safeguard and the protection of wildlife, that is flora and fauna, plant and animal species in the country. Now, in Wildlife Protection Act, basically we have 6 schedules. So what are these 6 schedules? And it starts from Schedule 1 to Schedule 6 and matter. So Schedule 1 to Schedule 5 and these are specifically related to animal species. I repeat, Wildlife Protection Act 1972 law, we have around 6 schedules. So in these 6 schedules, most importantly, 1 to 5 schedule, Schedule 1 to Schedule 5 is related to animal species. Okay, and the important last schedule, that is Schedule 6, is related to plant species. Now Schedule 1 anedi, these are the species which are highly protected. Ante these species or the schedules are arranged in such a way that తక్కువ ఉన్న స్పీసీస్ ఏ ఉన్నాయో వీటికి ఎక్కువ ప్రొటెక్షన్ ఇవ్వాలి కాబట్టి ఈ స్పీసీస్ ని షెడ్యూల్ 1 లో దే హావ్ యాడెడ్. When they have added in Schedule 1, already the number of species in Schedule 1 are very less. And that's the reason when you kill or when you harm this species, you have to pay highest penalty. Schedule 1 nunchi, if you try to move till Schedule 5, I repeat, Schedule 1 nunchi, if you try to reach Schedule 5, the species anedi, they slowly, their population anedi, slowly they will increase. Once their population increases, what will happen? Penalty or the jail term anedi taggutundi. For example, black buck. Black buck is the species whose number is very less in India. And the act anedi, it is specific to India ne kabatti. The black buck species anedi, its number in India is very less. I repeat, I am talking here only about India specific. So India lo, the black buck species anedi, it is very less kabatti. It needs to be highly protected. So when it has to be highly protected, I place this black bug in the first schedule. That means if you by mistakenly if you touch this species, then their chances very less to come out, because penalty will be very high for you and also jail term will be very high. So India lo takwa population ante takwa number unna species avanni, they are highly protected kabatti they all will be part of Schedule 1. And Schedule 2, Schedule 3, there is a spell mistake there. Second, it has to be Schedule 5 because it is least protected, no penalty. Now, I repeat, there is one slight mistake there. It should be Schedule 1 which is highly protected, and the second one will be Schedule 5 which is least protected, which is having no penalty on. Now, okay, someone has already corrected or trying to correct. Thank you so much. Now, Schedule 1 which is highly protected, Schedule 2 whose population when compared to Schedule 1 is little bit high కాబట్టి penalty అనేది తగ్గుతుంది. అంటే Schedule 1 నుంచి Schedule 5 రీచ్ అయ్యే వరకు పాపులేషన్ అనేది ఎక్కువ అవుతుంది కాబట్టి పెనల్టీ ఆర్ జైల్ టర్మ్ డెఫినెట్లీ విల్ కమ్ డౌన్. నౌ వర్మిన్ స్పీసీస్. ఇప్పుడు వర్మిన్ స్పీసీస్ ఏంటంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫ్యూ స్పీసీస్ విచ్ కాజ్ హార్మ్ టు ద ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్, అంటే దే మైట్ కాజ్ హార్మ్ ఈదర్ విత్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు హెల్త్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ ఆర్ అగ్రికల్చరల్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్. ఇన్ దిస్ కేస్ యూ కెన్ డిక్లేర్ దోస్ స్పీసీస్ యాజ్ వర్మిన్ స్పీసీస్. అంటే ఇప్పుడు వర్మిన్ స్పీసీస్ డిక్లేర్ చేశాక యూ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ ఎ రైట్ టు కిల్ దిస్ స్పీసీస్. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తమిళనాడులో వైల్డ్ బోర్స్ అండ్ హిమాచల్ ప్రదేశ్ ఉత్తరాఖండ్ లో రెసస్ మంకీ. ఈ స్పీసీస్ అనేవి ఒక రెసిడెన్షియల్ ఏరియాస్ ఆర్ అగ్రికల్చర్ యాక్టివిటీస్ ని దే ఆర్ కంటిన్యూస్లీ హార్మింగ్. So that particular state government will request the central government to declare this species as vermin. So once you declare this species as vermin, now you will be having a right, and you can kill those species in those particular states only, but not in other states. And the validity or the period for which you can kill them is for mostly 1 year only, but not more than that. Now, any other schedule, if the species are creating issue, then you remove them and you will place them in Schedule 5, because Schedule 5 are the species which are least protected and they are having no penalty kabatti. Now this species can be declared as vermin species. Now Schedule 6. Schedule 6 ante plant species. Plant species which are prohibited. Look, there are two things. One is prohibited, next one is protected. First 5 species here are protected and the last species is prohibited. Ante you cannot cultivate them because these are very dangerous species which are troubling the environment, or if they are being added as an intake to the livestock, this could be very poisonous. So hence these species are prohibited from cultivation. Ante you cannot import them or you cannot cultivate them. That's the reason these species are prohibited. For example, we have red vanda, blue vanda, or we also has orchids. So that's kind of a picture plant. Okay, so these are prohibited from cultivation. So in this entire slides, you should know different types of species and few important environmental terms. So as part of your examination, recently kuda rhesus macaw Himachal Pradesh lo, which was declared as vermin. That's why we should know the background of WPA Act and its 6 schedules, Schedule 1 to Schedule 5, which are related to specifically animal species, and Schedule 6 which are prohibited from cultivation, and what is those list. For example, India, if it identifies more species under Schedule 6, then we can see that this might be asked in your examination.